the small portion of his neighbor to the north. And because both those lots are platted, needed to come back in for a new subdivision plat. And in the course of working through this, we've added the lot to the north, the vacant lot to the north. The purpose of that is there's an easement on there that will be coming off, pedestrian easement off of that property that then runs along the canal. So now we're at a point for 3 lots in this subdivision. This is the zoning map you see here. The property is the R8 zone, which is entirely what you see in yellow. And again, the 3 lots in this request are there in the red cross hatching. And then the final subdivision plat you see here.
Any questions? Is the applicant here? Is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, and so we will open the public hearing on item 3.1. If anyone would like to make any comments about this item, if you would step to the microphone with a 3-minute limit. If you would state your name, please, and your address, we would appreciate that.
William Pipkin, 328 South, 900 East. I'm the adjoining property owner, and I'm in support of what we're doing here.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no one else stepping to the microphone, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for any further questions, comments. Is anyone ready to make a motion?
I can do that. I will make a motion that we vacate Lot 3 of the Eagle Park Subdivision Plat A and Pipkin Subdivision Plat A and approve the final plat of Eagle Park East Subdivision Plat B at 339 South, 850 East in the R8 zone.
Mr. Moulton has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Karen Jeffries has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, item 3.2.
Item 3.2 is a request for a conditional use permit to install an amateur radio tower at 476 North, 950 East in the R8 zone. Now, what a conditional use permit is, this will go on to the city council, so you will be making a recommendation to the council. Okay. It's a use that, because of the impact it may have, certain conditions can be placed upon that use to help mitigate any of the impact. And so you can make a recommendation to the council for approval, denial, for approval with conditions. It's up to you. The property in question in the blue here, a single-family residence. The owner is a professor of electrical engineering at BYU. He's also an amateur radio operator. He also holds the highest amateur radio license, and we'll let him get a little further into that, what that exactly means. But he's a well-seasoned amateur radio operator, and he has a tower now on site at his house there. I believe it told me, I just asked him, I believe he said it was about 40 feet tall right now. Obviously with radio, the higher you go on a tower, the further you can receive and send signals. So the city code right now allows you to have a tower up to a permitted height of 45 feet. Anything above 45 feet, then up to 75 feet is approved through a conditional use permit. So the applicant is here tonight for that approval. He currently has a tower purchased, and you do have a picture of it in your staff report, that will go up to 72 feet high. And that is achieved through the use of an electric motor. There are some towers which are hand crank. I think if I had a tower, I'd probably take the electric motor option as well. But so easy to move it up and down. He does, so like I said, he has what's called an extra class amateur license, and we'll let him go into detail on that. So the location you see here would be at the rear of his property. Just north of that concrete pad, you see that triangle. That would be the tower itself. And then on top of the tower would be his antenna for the sending and receiving of the signals. The closest home to this tower location is approximately 72 feet, about the height of the tower when it's fully extended. And this is what the tower itself looks like at the fully extended and fully retracted elevation.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Stroud? Okay, the applicant. Would you like to step to the microphone and introduce yourself? And we have some questions, I think, for you.
Thank you very much. I'm Brian Jeffs, and I'm the resident there and submitted the application. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm an active amateur radio operator. It's a hobby. It's a technology-based hobby, and we communicate with other operators around the world. We're licensed by the FCC. It's a private, non-commercial operation, and you know, the idea, it's like fishing. One of the ideas of amateur radio is to see how many rare contacts you can make in distant countries and with unusual operators. And it's just a lot of fun to talk to folks around the world, see what's going on the other side of the world. So with a single, we don't use the internet, we don't use repeaters. It's a direct links, single transmitter, single receiver on the other end. And we communicate over long distances by bouncing the signal off of the ionosphere. It goes up and bounces back down, and you get a skip that can be clear to the other side of the world. I talk all the time to folks in Japan, Europe, South America, Southern Pacific, New Zealand, Australia, those kinds of things.
I have a question. Are you going to be keeping the tower the antenna that you have right now? Is that going to stay up, or will this replace the new one? Replace the?
Good question. I'm open. Actually, I haven't decided what I want to do, and I'm certainly open to direction from the council on that. The large antenna which I have on the current tower will go over to the new tower. If I keep the existing tower, it would just be for smaller wire antennas or vertical whip antennas.
And when I was looking at your property, it seemed like the new one is going to be sitting back further into
That's
your
correct.
property, right? Okay.
That's correct. One of the reasons for that is that in the future we may consider expansion on our home, move the foundation out. The other is that this tower, not only does it retract, the lowest height is 23 feet 8 inches, but it has a winch you can lower it over, tip it over. I'm getting tired of climbing towers at my age, so it's going to be a safer situation for me.
That's nice.
And the difference between 40 feet versus 72 feet is quite significant in terms of your ability to reach out to those weak stations. It really doubles or triples your range. Now, currently I can talk to people around the world, but only you have to wait for the best conditions. With a higher tower, you can have success in more difficult conditions. The ionosphere changes day to day. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. When I'm not operating, we'll have the tower retracted below 45 feet, so it will be no higher than the existing antenna. I operate a couple hours a week, typically. Too busy with work to spend as much time as I'd like.
How high is your existing antenna?
It's 40 feet.
How long does it take to have it go up or down?
About 60 seconds.
Okay, so it's a fairly quick.
Yeah, you just hold a switch and it winds up.
Is it noisy?
No,
No?
it sounds about like it's a 1 horsepower motor, similar to what you'd have on a air cooler,
Okay.
but with a gearbox and pull.
It's not a noise thing. Okay.
I have a question. Since one of the important uses for amateur radio is emergencies,
Right.
what do you have an alternate way to get it up higher if there's no electricity, for instance?
On the current tower that I purchased, there isn't, although it is feasible to outfit a hand crank on the, so the motor drives with a belt onto a pulley. You could put a hand crank on the pulley. Haven't done that, but it is feasible. That's an interesting thought. I never thought how I'd get
If you
it.
could do a generator, hook up a generator to
Yeah,
it, or-
could use
I'm just thinking, if things were really bad,
Sure.
you would want to use your radio, but you wouldn't be able to get it up to its full height, which maybe you don't need
If you're
just around here, but yeah.
Or,
Anyway, just an idea.
or contacts in the US at the frequency bands this antenna is used for. Usually you're okay with 45 feet, but to get the really long overseas contacts, the higher altitude helps.
Is this something you do at night mostly? So you would
Both.
putting it up day,
Both.
night, whatever?
It's kind of unusual. The amateur radio has a number of different frequency bands allocated, all the way from below your AM radio band to above the FM radio band. One of the bands, it's called the 20-meter band, it's 14 megahertz, is best during the day because it's ultraviolet rays that actually cause the ionization of the atmosphere. When the sun goes down, the ionization layer goes away. Other bands, 10 meters and 15 meters, are also that way. If you go lower in frequency, it's better at night, like AM radio, you know, when you use ASL at long distance. Those frequencies, you typically don't use a tower with a big antenna that looks like a TV antenna. You use just wires because the antennas are too long to put on a tower, and those mostly nighttime is best.
Okay. I'm hoping there's not going to be a test on all those. Kind of got lost there. Well, I've lived in this area. I don't live too far from here, and quite honestly, I've never noticed it. So it's not something that, you know, has to be disguised as a pine tree for a cell tower or anything. You know, it is. I think it is something that you just blends in with what's over there. So, any other questions for Mr. Jeffs? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a recommendation, and it is not a public hearing, so is there anyone ready to make a motion on this?
I can do that.
Okay.
I move that we forward a positive recommendation to the city council regarding the conditional use permit at 476 North, 950 East in the R8 zone to allow an amateur radio tower greater than 45 feet, up to 72 feet, I think, provided that it's retracted when it's not in use, below the 45-foot level.
Okay. Mr. Cook has made a motion.
I'll second.
Becky will second the motion. Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Okay, on to, let's see, I guess, do we do item 3.3? Let's do 3.3 first. That is the scheduled, or the Planning Commission meeting schedule. Kind of talked about that in the pre-meeting. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? Looks good to me. I'll make a motion that we approve the 2017 Planning Commission meeting schedule. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Becky? Okay, Becky Buxton seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay, thank you. On to item 4.1. Does that need to be at 5 o'clock?
Gotta wait.
Okay. So we will take a break. We could do the minutes.
Oh, yeah, let's do
Yeah. Minutes from November 16th. I briefly looked over them, didn't see any problem. Anybody see anything on the minutes?
I didn't see any problems.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the minutes from November 16, 2016.
Okay, Dave Moulton has made a motion on the minutes. A second.
I'll second that motion.
Karen is the second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed. Okay, we will recess until 5 on item 4.1. Yeah, yeah, right, right, because that was my thing, I'm like, you have to say 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
But thinking about it, being in a hurry and not,
I don't know if they notice, if they do notice of something at 4:30.
but they are very
At
fun.
5, maybe that's,
Can add
that
some
might be a no-no.
color to
Well, or they may want you to do more of the business during their workday.
Yeah, that's.
So that then the only thing has to be after.
outer space. Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
When he keeps talking about reaching across the world, I was thinking about some of these movies where they contact me in outer space. Yeah, exactly.
It makes me think.
Well,
I need to
okay,
drive
so
with my eyes
I
open.
went, I drove to, this way and the house was over here. And then I turned around and I looked back and I thought, oh, that's a big antenna. Because you don't see antennas anymore.
Yeah, they're.
Because you don't have TV antennas, so much.
Right, and honestly, I'm just not driving around looking on top of the roof.
No, you don't look up so much.
So when this came through, I'm
But
like,
it's
he
a
already
big-
has one? But I'm like, heck, I better bring that up.
To move it back, it will be less noticeable, especially from the
Right.
street, because the house will hide that.
One of my neighbors has a funky tower that just.
Doyle Mortimer, he's in our state presidency. So currently we're mission leader, and he and I regularly, he's over the mission.
Well,
It's only about this big.
It's a wide area, Wi-Fi kind of. But it's gotta get up high probably to.
I don't
Yeah.
understand
Well,
all that stuff.
I never noticed cell towers
really dorky.
until
I
we
know.
had
I
we
heard
had an item come, and it was about, piggybacking on all these cell towers and different things, and I had never even paid attention
do
to them.
notice
And
those
now
a
I,
bit more.
now I notice them more, but
Yeah,
before that, I hadn't even, and there's
notice-
like 3 of them at Mountain View. And I drove by there all the time and never noticed it.
It's funny what we
Single
tune
one.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't.
You think
I
it's
didn't
gonna
pay
be so obvious, and then you really, oh yeah, I didn't even know
It's
that.
gone.
When they did the changing over behind Hobby Lobby, we had an
Right,
item where they were
right.
gonna, okay. My mom several times drove past that and it killed her car.
Really?
Yes. Her car would die. It would
kinda
stop,
weird.
the power would just go off.
Huh.
Really strange.
Yeah.
Did it stop doing that?
She figured out what was going on. It's a
Stay away
Toyota
from-
RAV4, and it was a new car,
It's kind of
but,
weird.
and it would just make the car die.
Really a sensitive something, or the electrical
Something was
system or
weird.
something. Well, I've never noticed.
So it's like a
I
mini.
thought about doing that. I thought about getting in ham radio, but I have too many expensive hobbies.
Is that an expensive hobby?
Well,
When
it's,
you're putting an
The
antenna
equipment?
like
Yeah,
that.
if you really-
Would
The
be-
equipment could be.
he spends. If he's-
Oh, definitely for retractable thing like that. That's what I thought.
And even-
when I first read it.
And the the power, the radio that has the power to reach what he's doing is
It's gotta be expensive.
He's an engineer,
gotta be
so it's
spending
his.
4 figures.
I spend that on quilting. No, I'm kidding.
Spend that on
It's a
television.
hobby. Yeah, exactly. You have a hobby, and that just is kind of what you like to do.
Just when you cook up too many of them.
My mother-in-law spent that on quilting all the time, and she
I don't
didn't have the
spend that,
money.
you know.
And so when I had to clear out her sewing room, I thought, I am not just getting rid of this stuff. We're putting it to good use, and that's what I've been doing.
You're making
Quilting
quilts?
and scrap.
I've been, yeah, she had a lot of things. As she got older, if something went wrong,
She didn't have the
she
patience
didn't
to
have the,
fix
you
it.
know, or,
Couldn't
she
see
just-
that
it
well.
wasn't- Yeah, exactly. And so the first thing I did was go through projects that needed to be finished and prioritize them, like, this needs a binding, or this just needs to be finished. That, and then giving them away
Yeah.
to
That's
family
nice.
members too.
Yeah.
So it's really fun. I could spend a whole year just doing her leftover projects.
I could spend a whole year doing my leftovers.
I could too. How many homemaking projects are in my
I know.
basement? Holy
We
cow.
once had a whole meeting where we said, everybody bring all your
Yeah.
stuff, and we'll
I
provide.
never brought mine, I was too embarrassed.
and just, so I'm logged in 7 different ways. And
All right, it's 5 o'clock, so we will go ahead and reconvene and move on to item 4.1.
Item 4.1 is a public hearing. This involves property at 860 West, 1860 North. And there are 2 parts to this request. The first is to amend the general plan land use map from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and then rezone the property from the R8 zone to the R6 zone. And the property outlined in yellow is the subject of this request tonight. Fairly new subdivision that's going in around there. There's property that's actually developing out of the south and developing to the north. I'll show you a little bit here in more detail on another map. The 2 maps you see before you here, the left map is the general plan, the right map is the zoning map. So the first request is to change the general plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential. And what that means is that as a guide, the general plan identifies certain or parts of the city or every part of the city for a type of land use. Here it's residential at low density, which says the appropriate zones in low density are R8, R12, R20, and PRD. The medium density would be R6, R65, and R75 in PRD. And so the zone should match the general plan. Now the general plan is a guide. Ultimately, this is a decision the city council will make, but the city council does not have to follow the general plan, but obviously it makes sense. Why have the general plan then if you don't follow it? So the request is to create smaller lots due to the characteristics of the property to go to the R6 zone. But the R6 zone is not appropriate in the low-density designation based on the general plan. So the request to go to medium-density residential. And then, of course, the right map is the current zoning map, as you can see. So the property right now is zoned R8, and the request is now to go to R6, and then from low density to medium density. What you see here, the property outlined in blue is the current lot owned by the applicant. That is in a platted subdivision right now. The intent has always been that that lot would be further subdivided in the future as the need arises. Now, property to the north of this lot and property to the south are both under development right now, and the road is stubbed on each side of the neighbor's lot. So obviously that road will go through. So we'll bisect that property. We'll create areas on the west side of the road to develop and areas on the east side. The applicant, as you can see, shown as Lot 14, they're in the process of rebuilding their house right now. And so what's left, they would like to subdivide what's on the east side and the west side of the road, but the east side of the road contains less property than the west side. The nature of the property, it would be only about 85 feet deep. Not very deep for a lot in this area based on the R8 zone. It would be a very wide lot as well. So the thought is to rezone this property to the R6 zone, which will require a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet, and then subdivide that property then into two. The west side of the road would stay the same as the R8 zone, and you would get two lots over there, and you can see the approximate square footage over there. That would actually increase a bit because the road would not make that curve. As you see, it would be straight. So the west side would pick up additional property. The east side would then actually be reduced a little bit. So the R6 zone would be the most appropriate zone right there to then allow the subdivision into two lots. And just some representative homes you see there on the top of the screen of what could be built there as well.
Do we have any idea when the road's going to go through?
It would go through with the recording of the subdivision. They would actually bond for the improvements and have a year to put in those improvements.
If the road curved, are those lots big enough for R8?
No. And it really doesn't give you a whole lot as far as building depth either because of the curve of the road. Houses generally don't curve like that anyway. And as far as transportation goes, we'd rather have that road just go straight than make that little jog.
I was just noticing on Lot 14 how narrow the easements are there between the property lines. Is that, I'm assuming it's sufficient.
You're talking about the easements or setbacks?
Just the setbacks, sorry.
Yeah, standard setbacks are a combination, in this zone would be a combination of 20 with one side being at least 8. So you could have 8 and 12 on a house or 10 and 10.
So to the west of Lot 14 there where the house sits, we've got enough. It's 8 or more.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
And in that zone, they could go down to 6 if they wanted, 6 and 10 for the sides.
For that big lot there?
Or, well, with the one you see in the darker green, the dark green outline, which would be the subject of this application.
Right. I was looking at Lot 14. I was just thinking about, because you're creating that lot.
Yeah, they would obviously,
Property line.
Right, that line would have to still comply with the setbacks. And the applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting with the applicants and a city councilman Lentz in attendance.
Okay, so to clarify, where Lot 14 meets up with the property that we're talking about.
The new subdivision.
The new subdivision. Which setback applies between those houses?
Well, for what you see is Lot 14, where the house is being rebuilt now. That would be the R8 standard. The other side would be the rear setback for the R6.
Okay.
And we would hash that out, that fine tune that line when they come in. If this is approved, then when they would come in for their preliminary plat, we'd have them show existing structures so we could verify that the setback for Lot 14 is going to work.
Okay, because you wouldn't want their setback to end up less than it would have been with R8, right?
Well, I mean, it could be less as long as it still complies. I mean, say for instance, at one time, well, that line has never been there, but it would have to be, let's say they have 12 feet on the east side, they could go to 8 feet on the west side here. Or if there's 10 on the east, 10 on the west.
So what is the rear setback for the R6?
R6 is 22 and a half. I believe it's 22 and a half.
Okay, so that would still be a lot better than the side setbacks for the R8.
Yeah, because there'll be a side setback on one side, a rear setback on the other. So you're going to have close to probably 30 feet minimum between houses.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, okay.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Stroud? Okay, is the applicant here? Would you come up and give us your name and if there's anything you'd like to add or any comments for us?
We're Ballard and Leah Mary Peed, and I guess we're just trying to see what we can do and we want to follow the rules as closely as we can.
Do you have a time frame for when that road would go through or when you would subdivide those out, or is it?
Financially can.
Okay, so you just kind of want to get it to,
Question about the setback from on the west side of the Lot 14 house, it's 12 feet to the property line. So you'd have the building and then 12 feet, and then your 22-foot setback.
okay. So that olive green line would be 12 feet before,
12 feet is what
12 feet
you're
on
proposing.
to your-
There is no
No, that-
property line
Well,
now.
Exactly.
okay,
But the drawing indicates 12 feet.
okay.
It's just such a narrow look to it that I thought, I didn't ask about that. Okay, thank you.
And you do access from that cul-de-sac, we talked about that earlier.
Yes.
You access from the other way, okay. Okay, anything else, any questions?
So
for
at
the
this
chief?
point, your intent is to have the general plan changed, have a zoning change, and then you're going to wait until some future point in order to, before you come forward with a subdivision, or? Because I think there are time constraints once you finalize a subdivision, correct?
Correct. And we would be able to meet that time.
Yeah, once the zone's in place, it can sit there 20 years
Right.
if they like. But yeah, the
Right.
plat itself,
Vision comes forward,
Right.
then they.
preliminary plat's good for a year, and then
Okay,
you can actually renew that every year as well if you want as well. Also,
okay.
Are you planning to develop the property yourself, or? Okay.
Yes.
That's a very nice subdivision. I like it very much.
Nice area there.
Okay, any other questions for the Peeds? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and so we will open the public hearing on item 4.1. If there was anybody who would like to come forward and make a comment.
That's you.
We already know what he thinks.
Okay, seeing nobody coming to the microphone, we will close the public hearing on item 4.1, bring it back to the commission for any final. This is a recommendation to the city council. Any other further comments or ready for a motion?
I can make a motion if we're ready.
Yeah.
I would like to recommend that we forward a positive recommendation to the city council for amending the Orem general plan land use map by changing the designation from low-density residential to medium-density residential and amending section 22-5-3A and the zoning map of the Orem City Code by rezoning property from the R8 zone to the R6 zone at 860 West, 1860 North.
Becky Buxton has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dave Moulton is the second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. That's a positive recommendation. Thank you. Okay, director's update.
Just wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas. Hope each one of you get to spend a lot of time with your loved ones and have a nice, relaxing holiday. And we'll see you next year. Appreciate your service.
Thank you for the gift as well. So the next meeting is January 4th, I believe. Okay. I will make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Karen Jeffries is the second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.